What you are about to hear is highly classified. In episode number 159 of Zone 4, this week, it's all about John Carter. The crew returns to talk about why you should completely ignore all the critics that tell you not to see this movie, and you should definitely go see this movie while it's still in the theaters. Plus, we talk about several other things, new comic projects, and so on and so forth. But for now, here's a clip from the show. I'll be back with you in a sec.
We want to talk about the movie that's out right now based on the Edgar Rice Burroughs classic novel, Princess of Mars. And what we are talking about, of course, is the film that has gotten so much negative hot publicity. It's mind-boggling, okay? That honestly, okay, a lot of us are wondering if there's some kind of ridiculous accounting conspiracy going on with the Walt Disney Company or whatever, okay? But Andrew Stanton, the writer-director, has produced, again, based on Edgar Rice Burroughs' 1912 classic, Princess of Mars, a spectacular science fiction movie called John Carter. Taylor Kitsch stars as the ex-Confederate soldier who ends up on the red planet Mars, and the beautiful Lynn Collins is Deja Torres, the Princess of Mars from the original title. This thing I've heard people compare it to Lawrence of Arabia with science fiction elements, you know?
Right, and I think to kind of what I found interesting is that if you read the traditional media, what you hear a lot of is big flop, biggest flop, Disney's writing it off. But when you actually have the audience, people who've seen it talk about it, they say it's not that bad a film. It's actually pretty good. And I think a lot of it is that the film has some very old school kind of movie making techniques in it. In the beginning, there's a flashback to 1868 Arizona. Stanton could have easily done like kind of a Deadwood style with close-ups and tight shots because there's really no reason for it to be big and expansive. It's not a Western. You know, you want it to be big and expansive when he gets to Mars. But the fact that the shots are composed in a way where you see really the beautiful scenery, it's like Stanton's going, nope. You're going to get it's almost a John Wayne style of movie making, you know.
I agree totally. It's a spectacle,
right? And once they get to Mars, it really has a very distinct look, and it's one of those movies where there's a lot of CGI in it, but the CGI does not look phony at all.
Right. I mean, you know. If you know, again, explaining this to you know a younger audience of our you know Legionnaires listening to this, if you're under 30 or whatever, the odds are very good you probably never read the actual Burroughs books this is based on, unless you're a real nerd, geeky science fiction folk who eats this stuff up and got that education. But I know, Gordon, you only recently read it, didn't you?
Yeah, I've only read it in the past. I did a piece for the old radio show about it. I read it. I liked it. It was a little tough for me to get into, but it was, since the novel was written in 1912, I kind of expected there to be a little resistance on my part because it's just not written. I'm not going to blame Burroughs for writing for his time, but once I got into it, the book, there's this really cool feeling in the book. It's like you can see Burroughs trying to capture all the stuff that he's thinking of in his head. And you get really engrossed in that. And I think the movie has a lot of that quality about it. I think for a lot of our audience, for a lot of the modern audience, I think the reason why people stayed away in droves, part of it, I think, was poor marketing. Because this film was not marketed well at all. I think, from what I've read, the executives at Disney who kind of saw this film through are no longer there. So you've got a bunch of executives wondering, what the hell do we do with this $350 million movie? And they drop the ball.
Oh, big time.
And I think for a lot of the audience, it's that, when all you read is big flop, oh, why should I see that? I see no reason why this movie was released in 2D, 3D, and IMAX. I mean, I saw it in 2D, and it works fine.
Yep, so did I. So did I.
And I think if anyone's listening, the best thing you can do, go see this movie. Don't believe traditional, and if anyone tells you this movie is crap, they are wrong. Okay?
Bravo.
This is a really good film. I mean, in my opinion, it's one of the best films this year so far.
Well, what I absolutely love about the film myself is, again, and I'm going back a long ways, and I'm the first guy to admit this, okay, and unabashedly so, okay. I mean, I was like 11, 12, a ferocious reader, and along about 12, 13 years old, at the same time that Marvel was coming onto the scene, I was discovering through the drugstore paperback route some of the classic, science fiction and pulp writers of their day, because in the early 70s, a lot of these books were being reprinted time and time again. Ace Paperback was a very popular company at that time, and they started reprinting a lot of Burroughs' work, especially, obviously, the series he's the most known for, which is Tarzan of the Apes. Well, at the same time, they also started reprinting, his other works, his science fiction works, including the Martian series.
And if you'd like to hear the rest of the show, it'll be live later today via iTunes, Facebook, Comic Related, and so on and so forth. We also give more shout-outs to our faithful Zone 4 Legionnaires. We're up to 302 on the page now. Thank you so much. Don't forget to check out the weekly webcomic at zone4podcast.com/webcomic. It is very close to its end, so please check it out. There will actually be 2 strips next week. This episode is sponsored by Argo Comics. You can learn more at argocomics.com. We had Dan Sin on the show recently who talked all about it, episode 155, so check it out for more information. Zone 4 is still proud to be supporters of suicide prevention for March and April. If you'd like to donate, check out the link and do so. And as always, follow us on our website, zone4podcast.com, which has links to all our social networks, Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, YouTube, as well as a link to our iTunes store, where you can download every episode. Of course, you can check every episode out on the archive of the website, so please visit there. And, of course, thanks for listening.